The Misadventures of Benny the Clumsy Thief. Chapter 1: The Dream. In the heart of Whimsyville, where the streets were lined with candy-colored houses and the only traffic jams were caused by ducks crossing the road, lived Benny the Clumsy Thief. Benny wasn't your typical thief. He was more of a borrower who had a tendency to forget to return things. His most prized possession? A bright pink feather boa he had borrowed from the town's annual costume parade 3 years ago. One sunny afternoon, as Benny lounged on his couch, munching on a bag of potato chips, he overheard a conversation through his open window. The local librarian, Miss Tilly, was gossiping with Mr. Jenkins, the town's resident conspiracy theorist, about a legendary treasure hidden in the old clock tower. Benny's ears perked up. Legend has it that the treasure is guarded by the ghost of Old Man Tick-Tock, Ms. Tilly said, her eyes wide with excitement. They say he only appears at midnight during the full moon. Benny's mind raced. A treasure? Ghosts? This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He could finally become the most notorious thief in Whimsyville, and maybe even retire with enough riches to buy a lifetime supply of potato chips. Chapter 2: The Plan. That evening, Benny called his best friend, Max, who was currently deep into a conspiracy theory about how squirrels were actually government spies. After a few minutes of convincing, Max reluctantly agreed to help Benny with his grand heist. "Okay, Benny," Max said, adjusting his tinfoil hat. "We need a plan." "A foolproof plan?" Benny nodded vigorously. "Right. First, we need disguises." "What about mustaches?" Max raised an eyebrow. "Mustaches? Really?" "Absolutely. Everyone trusts a man with a mustache," Benny declared, pulling out a pair of fake mustaches from his drawer. They were bright blue and looked more like caterpillars than facial hair. "Fine," Max sighed, "but we also need a distraction." "How about a rubber chicken?" Benny's eyes lit up. "Perfect. We'll use the rubber chicken to distract Old Man Tick-Tock while we grab the treasure." With their plan in place, Benny and Max spent the rest of the evening preparing for their heist, which mostly involved trying on ridiculous disguises and practicing their serious thief faces in the mirror. Chapter 3: The Heist. As the clock struck midnight, Benny and Max crept towards the clock tower, their hearts racing with excitement and a hint of fear. Benny clutched the rubber chicken tightly, while Max adjusted his tinfoil hat for the 100th time. "Remember, act natural," Max whispered, trying to sound confident. "Right, natural," Benny replied, immediately tripping over his own feet and landing face-first in a pile of leaves. "See? Just like that," Max said, stifling a laugh. They finally reached the base of the clock tower, where a rickety old ladder led up to the entrance. Benny climbed first, but halfway up, he lost his grip and fell backward, landing in a bush with a loud thwomp. "Benny, are you okay?" Max shouted, peering over the edge. "Of course. Just testing the, bush landing," Benny replied, trying to sound nonchalant as he picked twigs out of his hair. Finally, they made it inside the clock tower, only to be greeted by a series of comical mishaps. Benny accidentally triggered a hidden lever, causing a trapdoor to open beneath him. He plummeted down into a room filled with old clocks, landing on a giant cuckoo clock that let out a loud cuckoo as he bounced off. Max, meanwhile, had stumbled into a wall of gears and was now stuck, spinning around like a human top. "Benny, a little help here." With a combination of laughter and panic, Benny managed to free Max, but not before setting off a confetti cannon that exploded with a loud bang, showering them both in colorful paper. "Great. Now we're festive thieves." Benny exclaimed, trying to wipe confetti out of his eyes. Chapter 4: Unexpected Allies. As they stumbled through the tower, trying to find the treasure, they suddenly found themselves face to face with a group of townsfolk who had come to investigate the noise. Mistaking Benny and Max for performers, they cheered and clapped. "Bravo! What a show!" one elderly lady exclaimed, tossing confetti in the air. Thank you," Benny said, his mind racing. We're just practicing for the Whimsyville festival." Max nodded enthusiastically, still trying to catch his breath. "Yes. The rubber chicken is our star performer." The townsfolk, completely oblivious to their true intentions, began to chant for a performance. Benny and Max exchanged panicked glances but quickly decided to roll with it. "All right, folks. Prepare for the greatest show Whimsyville has ever seen," Benny declared, grabbing the rubber chicken and striking a dramatic pose. Chapter 5: The Chase. Just as Benny and Max began their impromptu performance, the town's eccentric mayor, Mayor McFluff, burst into the room, his eyes wide with excitement. "Thieves! I've caught you red-handed." Benny's heart sank. "Uh-oh," he whispered to Max. But before they could make a run for it, the townsfolk mistook the mayor's arrival as part of the act and began to cheer even louder. "More drama! More drama," they shouted. With no choice but to improvise, Benny grabbed a pie from a nearby table and threw it at Mayor McFluff, hitting him square in the face. The crowd erupted in laughter, and Benny took advantage of the distraction to make a break for it. What followed was a slapstick chase through the town, involving pies, balloons, and a very confused goat who had wandered into the chaos. Benny and Max zigzagged through the streets, dodging the mayor and the townsfolk, who were now fully invested in the performance. Chapter 6: The Climax. Eventually, Benny and Max found themselves back at the clock tower, panting and covered in pie filling. "We need to find that treasure," Benny exclaimed, determination in his eyes. They finally located the treasure chest, only to discover it was filled with the most bizarre collection of items imaginable: rubber ducks, whoopee cushions, and an old clown wig. "Is this a joke?" Max asked, bewildered. Benny shrugged, holding up a rubber duck. "Well, it's not gold, but it could be fun." Just then, Mayor McFluff burst in, still covered in pie. "You two are in big trouble." But instead of fear, Benny felt a spark of inspiration. "Wait. What if we use this treasure for the festival? We can put on a hilarious show." Chapter 7: Resolution. The mayor paused, wiping pie off his face. "A show? You mean you want to entertain the town?" Benny nodded eagerly. "Exactly. We'll turn this whole mess into a festival highlight." With the mayor's reluctant approval, Benny and Max set to work, using their treasure to create a comedy show that had the entire town rolling with laughter. The rubber ducks became props, the whoopee cushions added sound effects, and Benny's antics turned him into a local legend. Chapter 8: Conclusion. As the festival came to an end, Benny realized that he had found something far more valuable than treasure: friendship, laughter, and a place where he truly belonged. From that day on, Benny retired from thievery and embraced his new role as Whimsyville's favorite performer. And while he may have left his life of crime behind, the townsfolk knew that with Benny around, there would never be a dull moment.
Subscribe for more.